Hey everyone, Genome here, catch you with the next episode in my how-to series. This is kind of a spontaneous one. The idea was given to me by another video that I did because I like to put out videos that help people, right? And this is kind of a man's tutorial, if you will, in the fact that I'm going to go over something today that unfortunately a lot of men don't know how to do that day, and that is to tie a tie. I'm going to go over basically the 3 basic tie knots you want to use, and I'm actually going to go into a little bit of depth of how you should use them and when, right? So it's not going to be just here's how you tie half Windsor. No, it's going to be a little more in depth than that. You know me, I can't do anything that's not long-winded. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to shed jacket, but so bear with me and let's get started. All right, so we are down to it. So let me go over a couple really quick tie rules. First of all, you probably can't see it because of the angle. Let's see if I can get up on tiptoes here. But here's the first general rule of the tie you don't hear a lot. The tail, the tip end, the blade end of your tie needs to be hanging around where your top button on your pants is, or in the middle of your belt buckle somewhere. So keep that in mind when you're sizing these up when you tie them, because you know most ties are different lengths. If you are ample across brace and basket, as we used to say, you might need a little bit longer tie, or to use a little less material at the top part when you're tying it. I'm gonna switch over to B-roll here for just a second and show you some things. Okay, now here is another thing you want to think about. The width of the collar is very important when selecting the type of knot you're going to use. Now in this instance, I'm actually using a half Windsor. This is about a medium spread here between the lapels. I don't have a whole lot of wide ones. I will switch to a wider shirt when I show you the full Windsor, but the half Windsor is basically the most universal knot. It's formal, it's sort of casual in a way, but it just fits a lot of different ones. If in doubt, if you're going to like a job interview or you know something like that, you're definitely going to want to go with something more formal like a half Windsor or a full Windsor, right? But a full Windsor will look kind of ridiculous on even sometimes a mid spaced collar. So I'm going to go ahead and retie this as a half Windsor for this shirt. But yeah, that's another thing that's important, is to figure out how wide a knot you actually need for the different collars gaps that you have. So, and you know, a third one is kind of an unwritten rule, but it's sort of important, right? Is, you know, you try to have at least, unless you're wearing a straight up power tie on a white shirt or something, I like to have at least one color that blends with the rest of your shirt. In this case, the darker blue kind of goes with it, so it allows it to accent pretty well. I didn't use any solid ties today for showing you, because I want you to see basically the different cross hatching you got going on here when the tie is properly tied. So hey, bear with me. I might do things a little bit different than you're used to seeing. Like for instance, my full Windsor, I think it's done a little bit different than the norm, but believe me, I find through trial and error it works for me. And guys, I don't wear a tie very often. Maybe once a year I'll throw a tie on. I never wear a full suit anymore. It's just something I think every guy should know how to do. When I was in the Army, a lot of guys, including myself at the time, would tie their tie or have it tied for them once and never untie it again. Never do more than unloosen it, so they could just put it on anytime because they never wanted to learn how. And you know, it's kind of embarrassing to have another man tie your tie for you if you get down to it. I remember I was at a wedding reception a few years ago and I had to redo a bunch of people's ties because they didn't know how to do it, you know. So I think it's just an essential thing to learn. It only takes a few minutes and it's super easy. Once you learn it, you never forget it. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot over to B-roll so you can see what I'm doing, but let's go ahead and get started on the first knot, the most universal knot, which is the half Windsor. Okay, so here we are. Hopefully the sound's coming out right. I actually had to attach my lapel mic to my bracer here. In fact, let me move it up just a little bit. Make sure you're getting me, because I was afraid if I used any other, it would be scraping against the fabric too much or whatever. So, but I won't be wearing the bracers for much longer. So, all right, as I said, I have a half Windsor in this because of the distance here. So let's go ahead and undo it. And you can leave them loose. If you're afraid that you'll never get the tie right again, you can leave it loose to take it about that far and take it over your head and keep it. But that's not the idea of this tutorial now, is it? Hopefully I'm not in too close. So you can turn your collar as it ends up here. Let me back out just a tiny bit and hopefully You can see what I'm doing pretty well. Get back in frame. All right, so first thing, you just gotta figure out how much fabric you need on the tail end. I always droop the blade or the main end of the tie on my dominant hand, so I just don't forget, right? And this is something else I forgot to mention before, is you have to take into consideration the actual material of the tie. This is a thinner material. I have a tie like this one, which is really thick. I mean, you really gotta be mindful of how much material you use on the tail because it's just giant. Plus, it's to make a really giant Windsor knot, right? But this is kind of a thinner material, so it won't take as much material, right? So you gotta keep that in mind because you wanna get your tie length right. You don't wanna be sitting there fooling with it for an hour. So basically, take the main part of your tie and pull it down until, for the half Windsor, I like it about, I don't know, about a foot coming down from the shoulder here. You can't really see it too well because of the angle, but I want you to see the knot itself. So, in order to do so, take your tail, move it to the opposite side of your chest. Take the main part or the blade, move it to the other side. So now you got a little cross going on, right? All right, and I'm trying to do this without a mirror, so sometimes it's a little bit hard. So first thing is you want to bring this back around behind the tail. And you should still have the back of your tie facing forward now, okay? Now, taking the main part, take the end and tuck it over your main loop, okay? And pull it down. This is gonna give you what I call a croissant. All right, some people call it a shoulder, right? Now, here's something else I do a little bit different probably than most people. I put my finger on the knot. This is not the whole of the knot. It's pretty sturdy by itself, right? But this is for a thing I'll show you later. So, bring it over. And already you have the view of the knot itself. So bring that over all that you've done so far, okay? Now here's where I like to put my finger up in the bottom of this knot you created. You'll see why in a second. Take the remainder of the main part of your tie, okay? Now bring it up through, okay? And your knot is basically done at this point. Now I like to get back in frame here. I like to flip that back over my shoulder. Now you see how I still have my finger in here? Here's why. Okay, so making sure that the front portion, not the seam, is facing forward. Go ahead and insert it through the top loop that you just created. Now, I know if you let go of it, it's fine, don't be afraid. The only reason I keep my finger up in there is just to make it easier to get the actual tie through. So the knot is there, you can't lose it now. All you do to get your knot actually snugged is pull on the main part, okay? And the tail part will be to raise your tie up. But I like to get just so on my knot before I start raising it up. So it should look something like this, okay? Now, it's pretty symmetrical. What I like to do is I like to make this more of a triangle here. So I take, sorry I'm doing this in reverse, I take the corners, the other ends of my loop here, and I pull out a little bit. And that actually gives it more of a triangular appearance, is what you're going for, right? Another trick to do here is this knot will try to escape out the bottom sometimes. So put your thumb behind it and push up while you're tightening a little bit. Okay, and that keeps everything together. But you don't have to push too hard. It's not really going anywhere, but it can come out the bottom. Okay? And your knot is basically complete. So, just snug her up to where you want her. Make sure you can actually tuck your tie in. A lot of times these tabs are just way too far. These stay tabs are way too far down. This tie is like one of them. You can actually put it inside your shirt tail if you need to, if you want it floating around. But make sure your length is good. And there you have it. You have a half Windsor knot on a mid-spaced collar, right? So it's perfect. And you can fiddle with this thing, get everything just how you like it. I like mine nice and symmetrical. You can put a dimple right here. But yeah, that's basically it. So hopefully you can see all that, and I'll do it one more time at a little bit faster speed, just so you can see the process. It's not a long process, right? You can flip up your collar, you don't really have to, but all right, so have like about a foot of the tail here across your chest, okay? Bring the main part over, go behind, okay? So now the back end of the tie should be facing up forward, over and through, pull down until you get what I call the croissant, And now you can either put your fingers here now or later. Wrap it around what you've created so far. Once again, back of the tie, forward. Okay. Take the blade, pull it right up through what you created, the main loop. I throw it over my shoulders, fingers in the knot. Tighten up and cinch. Bring your collars down and you're ready for your big meeting or night on the town. All right, stay tuned for more. All right, so for round 2, you can see the collar that I'm wearing now is narrower than the last one. This is pretty narrow, about as narrow as I like. But on a collar like this, you really don't want a big fat knot. It'll make the ends of your collar tab stick up a little bit. It doesn't look quite right. So this is more like a casual setting shirt. And for that, the 4-in-hand knot is basically where you want to go with it. But same rules apply. This is a lot like the half Windsor, but without one of the steps, basically. So, collar up, let's head on over to B-roll. All right, so here we are. Hopefully this is straight up and down, and hopefully this doesn't make too much noise on the mic. So, I wonder if I can move this over. Not really, but anyway, so for this knot, you're gonna need too much material, so you can be a little more liberal with the tail end. Wherever it's comfortable, make sure it lines up at the end of your belt, but make sure you have enough length in here to stick in your stay back here. So this one starts out the same way as the half Windsor, right? So take the main part of the tie and come over top, right? I think I got a little too much material on this one. There, that's a little better, okay? But this is where things start to take a bit of a turn for different. Go completely around it with the main piece and all the way over the front again. So you're doing a full turn around there. And you're basically almost done, believe it or not. You can do the same trick with your finger right here if you want. Usually not necessary with this knot. So the face of the tie should still be facing out, okay? Take your tie and come up underneath. Pull through, okay? Still should be facing front. I like to flip the tie back here, insert my finger in the loop, in the main knot of the loop. Take your blade, pull it right on through. This is a much smaller knot, you'll see here as I get a little closer. Try and get the lighting just right. There we go. It's an asymmetrical knot. It'll look more like a rhombus or whatever, I think. I like on this knot a lot. I like to put my thumb back under the bottom of the knot when I tighten with the main part of the blade. So tighten up. You want this to be a smaller knot. Same thing. I like to kind of shape it a little bit more on the edges. And you're probably getting tons of noise there. Sorry. And tighten up again. Snug up. Okay. And now we are ready to bring her up. Okay, we put the collar down. And it's really important to center this tie right because it's, like I said, a thinner knot. And usually there's not a lapel mic in your way. So, but that's basically it. And you can sit there and fiddle with it and straighten it out. But remember, it's an asymmetrical kind of knot. So it'll veer off one direction or another depending on how you tie it. And you can keep snugging. Get right to the top. And there you go. See, it doesn't fill up too much space, but it works really well with these narrow gaps, right? So another cool thing about this knot is you can go super hyper casual with it, okay? So a lot of things, like if you want the look of, hey, I'm going to happy hour after work, or you know, the wedding reception's over and I'm just going to chill, but still look casual and debonair at the same time, you can kind of reach up here and just loosen it a little bit, and then undo your top button on your collar, loosen things up a little bit. I like to pull it off one direction, right? Gives you that out of work banker look, right? Pull it off one side or another just a little bit. I think the David Tennant Doctor Who used to do this quite a bit. And there you go. So you got the very, hey, I actually have a job, or I just got fired from a job look, but you don't even have to take off your tie and worry about stuff in your pocket. So, all right, so that's the second one, the 4-in-hand knot. Most casual of all knots, and definitely not for every situation and not in a business setting. Depends, I guess, how casual or lack thereof your business is. So let's go ahead and do the last one, the granddaddy of all knots, the full Windsor. Coming right back at you now. All right, it's time for the last knot in the main knot tie repertoire, right? Now, if you'll notice, I changed your shirt with a pretty wide distance between the, the lapel or the collar here. So you're gonna need a fairly good sized knot to fill that gap. Now you can go with a couple different knots here, but I would just suggest go for the full Windsor. Don't overcomplicate things.
We are just warming up.
And I'm using a tie with kind of a medium to a little bit larger or heavier material because I want that knot to fill up some space. So let's go ahead and over to the B studio here, and we'll get this classic tie knot tightening. Okay, so this knot is going to use up a ton of fabric, right? So we are going to be pulling most of the tail up, almost to basically the second to last button here, right? Just enough to get a grip on, because you're going to be pulling a lot of this through. So this starts out the same as the half Windsor and the forehand, right? So you're going to take your main part of your tie, come over top. So after you got that, remember I said I do things a little bit different? Well, I do it like this. Some people go underneath right away with theirs. I go through automatically, right from the get-go. Okay, and I pull it down, and the tie should still be facing forward, right? The material. Then I go back underneath, and I take the main part of the tie, which is now facing backwards. I loop it through the main loop and snug her down. You're gonna get what is the double croissant. You can tighten this down or whatever, all right? This is the tie I use the finger on the most, right? So I'll put my finger right here on the knot, go across, okay? And you can already see the makings of your knot now. Bring the tail, or excuse me, the blade, main part of your tie back through, which you created, back over the shoulder. Your gap's still there. Make sure your tie's facing forward when you start running through it. And just set it through, front loop of your knot. Don't worry if it looks like it's going crazy, you can always adjust it and save it. Okay, see, I'm not holding on to it at all. And start snugging down. Now you can make this look a little bit fatter by doing it in a more traditional way, but I like this a little bit better because I get more of the pointed look that I like. Sometimes you gotta tuck the top in a little bit. It tends to want to escape a little bit with this knot, but just pull their sides a little bit, and once again, holding the bottom of your knot, snug up, and then shape as you like, and it gets pretty wide. And then snug to your heart's content. Try not to cut off the circulation to your brain. You will need that. Flip your collar down, and you too have just created a rather large knot to fill up a rather large gap. Once again, on B-roll, see how much room it takes up compared to some of the other knots, and you can fiddle with this a lot. Like I said, I like to really pull down on the edges and give it a nice, like almost rounded triangle look, right? And it gives you a nice little crest right here, and a good thing for a tie pin or whatever if you want. But that's basically it, okay? So it's not rocket science. You can learn it in an hour or two, and basically you never forget it, and it will come in handy sometimes, right? And you won't have to have that awkward moment when you ask another man to tie your tie for you. So let's just go over this real quick. Remember how I said you could actually keep your tie, if you were not too comfortable with undoing it, just loosen up the knot a little bit, pull down, and you have your tie forever. It's not going anywhere. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and quickly go through the other knots that I did earlier. Let's just use, this tie is pretty easy. And I'll show it to you basically at full speed, all right? Let's go ahead and put my collar up here. No tutorial here, just I want to show you that it gets really easy. Don't overcomplicate this. So let's start with, we'll just go in order of ease, right? So let's start with the forehand. So lots of tail here. one knot down, no sense putting the collar down, 4 in hand. Easiest knot there is. You can do it in about 10 seconds or less when you get really good at it. Okay, and every knot just pulls right out. Okay, make sure your ties are facing forward, your tied tails and laid here. We're gonna take up more of the slack because this one we're gonna do a half Windsor, okay? This is a little bit longer tie too, so I'm actually taking probably a little more than needed, but all right, so same way start. Okay, go around, through, make your half croissant, come over the top, and reach through and get it too if you need to, if it's starting to get away from you a little bit. Sometimes you have to readjust, these things get kind of lapped over sometimes. I like to throw it back over my shoulder, make sure my finger's in the knot so I can easily put the tie through it. You can let go of it then once you get the head through. Okay. Adjust it how you like for points and all that. Tighten, and there's your half Windsor. You can make it, of course, prettier than that, but you get the idea. And last, but certainly not least, as far as knot sizes go, we're going for the full Windsor. So hey, it's super wide collar and you got something super formal to go to. So full Windsor, we don't do anything half, you know what around here. So, all right, so you want very little tail on this one because like I said, you can eat up tons of material. So you go over, remember I do this one a little different than most people do it. So once you go over once, you're coming back up through the neck knot. Okay, pull down a little bit so you get a baby bun. Come behind, loop back through toward yourself, and you're getting, basically looks like an inverted tie at that point, right? The tie knot. I like to put the finger right here, go around, back up through, and then start, remember put your thumb back here on the bottom of the knot, pull up, tighten as you like, shape it as you like. If some escapes out the top, now's a good time to tuck it, and then whoop, you have yourself a big giant knot, and it's classic and never goes out of style. Once again, it looks like it's overly complicated, but believe me, it's not. Let's go ahead and just do it real quick with no commentary. Half Windsor. Half Windsor. Now let's go ahead and do a full speed, full Windsor, and we'll get you on your way. Remember, this is Genome method, so you may get frowned upon if other people are trying to give you instruction on this, but believe me, it works very well, and nothing is always set in stone. Okay. Sometimes your tie gets turned around. Just fix it. They're very forgiving. And there you have it, full Windsor knot. So anyway, I hope this actually proved useful to some people. Hopefully my camera angles could show you all the things that you needed to do. But yeah, it's just a great skill to have, and you know, it saved you maybe a little bit of embarrassment later on, and you know, it's just good to know, because you know, there's always some kind of fancy social event, well, not always, but sometimes, or you might want to go down and apply for a bank loan or something, or you're going to a job interview. It's good to know that you don't have to panic and stay up all night the night before to try to learn how to tie a tie, or to have a friend come on tie for you, or buy, goodness, don't do this, don't buy a clip-on tie, because it will show, you'll know, people usually can tell. It's a great peace of mind. I have tied these things in the parking lot right before a job interview, and you know, with 5 minutes to get into the building, and it's no big deal, man. You can do it. So if you've never tied a tie before and this video helped you, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and if you want to keep seeing more from these how-to series, I would love to do it. I do have some more basically men's finer apparel how-tos I like to do as well, like explaining what these are. These aren't suspenders, they're braces, but maybe we'll get into that more later. And how to properly accessorize when wearing business attire. Lots of little rules like that, but we'll see if I get any interest out of that. So anyway, this is, I think, the most general one that people would want to know about as far as men's fancy dress goes. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more how-to content and more review content here coming up in the near future, because as you all know, if I can review it, I will do it. Like I said, who knows what I'm going to do next how-to, but it could be right around the corner, so make sure to keep your tie on and tell them Genome sent you. All right, well, until next time, this is Genome. Not trying to hoist himself by his own petard, hoping the camera angles came out all right. Out.